February 24, 2022. Before dawn cracked over the frozen outskirts of Hostomel, a single question seemed to hang in the smoke-filled air. What does it sound like when a doorway becomes the line between life and death? The answer came in splintering wood, in the metallic cough of rifles echoing through tight hallways, in the breath of men who knew that one wrong step in close quarters, combat could be their last. When Russian forces launched their full-scale invasion of Ukraine, one of the first and most strategic targets was the Antonov Airport near Hostomel, just outside Kyiv. And Ukrainian Special Operations Forces moved fast to prevent it from becoming a bridgehead for a lightning assault on the capital. In those opening hours, Ukrainian units, including Special Forces and National Guard elements, counterattacked airborne troops who had landed by helicopter, turning hangars and administrative buildings into claustrophobic battlefields, where visibility shrank to a few meters and every shadow felt alive. Close-quarters combat is not the sweeping battlefield you see in old war paintings. It is intimate, chaotic, terrifyingly personal. And in Hostomel, the fighting was so close that soldiers later described hearing their opponents breathe on the other side of thin walls. One Ukrainian operator recalled clearing a corridor littered with broken glass, stepping over the body of a comrade, and feeling his boots slide in a mixture of melted snow and blood. The air thick with smoke and insulation dust that burned the throat and blurred vision. The horror of those early engagements was not cinematic, it was raw and immediate, with wounded men calling for medics while gunfire ricocheted off concrete pillars. And yet through that horror, there was heroism, small acts that never make headlines. Like dragging a wounded teammate back under fire or holding a stairwell for minutes that felt like hours so civilians could evacuate. As the war stretched into the brutal urban battles of 2022 and 2023, particularly in cities like Bakhmut, Ukrainian special units continued to conduct storming operations against entrenched Russian positions, often in apartment blocks reduced to skeletal frames. The date May 20, 2023 marked Russia's declaration of capturing Bakhmut after months of grinding combat. But even before and after that announcement, Ukrainian forces carried out counter-assaults and special operations in and around the city's ruins, engaging in room-to-room fighting where grenades were tossed down stairwells and the blast waves shook loose chunks of ceiling. Imagine moving through a pitch-black basement with only a flickering flashlight and the knowledge that an enemy soldier could be crouched behind a water heater, finger on the trigger, heart pounding just like yours. One operator described the eerie silence that sometimes followed an explosion, a silence so complete it felt supernatural, broken only by the drip of water from shattered pipes and the distant moan of wind through blown-out windows. Until suddenly the silence shattered again with automatic fire at point-blank range. These missions pushed the boundaries of human endurance not only physically but mentally, because in close-quarters combat there is no safe distance, no comforting horizon, only corners to clear and doors to breach. Ukrainian Special Forces often relied on speed, surprise, and intimate knowledge of the terrain, using drones for reconnaissance and then moving swiftly through alleys and trenches to overwhelm positions before reinforcements could arrive. In some operations during the counteroffensive in the south in 2023, small assault groups advanced through minefields under artillery fire to reach Russian trenches, where the fight devolved into hand-to-hand struggles in narrow dugouts. The horror element was not just the violence, but the environment. Trenches flooded with rainwater, the smell of damp earth mixed with cordite, rats scurrying over abandoned gear in the night, and the constant awareness that artillery could land at any second, burying everyone alive. Yet within that darkness, there were moments of astonishing courage, like medics sprinting across open ground under fire to reach the wounded, or soldiers returning to the front days after losing close friends because they believed their stand was the only thing holding back further devastation. On March 3, 2022, during fierce fighting around Kyiv, Ukrainian forces destroyed a large Russian armored column near Bucha and Irpin, and special units played a key role in coordinating ambushes that turned roads into burning graveyards of twisted metal. The sight of charred vehicles and the silence after battle left a haunting imprint, a reminder of how quickly modern machinery can become a tomb. War has a way of stripping away illusions, and in the shattered suburbs around Kyiv, it revealed both the fragility of life and the stubborn resilience of those defending their homes. Soldiers spoke of entering houses to clear them and finding family photos still hanging on walls, children's toys scattered on floors, ordinary lives interrupted by extraordinary violence. That contrast between domestic normalcy and the sudden intrusion of gunfire created a psychological horror that lingered long after the shooting stopped. In later operations along the Eastern Front in 2024, Ukrainian Special Operations units continued targeted raids against fortified positions, often at night, when darkness could be both an ally and an enemy. Night vision devices painted the world in ghostly green, turning trees into looming figures and smoke into shifting phantoms, and every rustle in the brush could signal an ambush. One veteran described the moment before a breach as the longest second of his life. The charge set, the team stacked against a wall, each man silently confronting the possibility that what lay behind that door could end everything. When the explosion came, it was not just an entry point but a leap into chaos. Flashbangs detonating in tight rooms, commands shouted over the ringing in their ears, shapes moving in the haze, decisions made in fractions of a second. Humor sometimes surfaced in the most unexpected ways, a quick joke muttered after a near miss, a laugh that sounded almost out of place amid the ruins. Because sometimes laughter is the only way to keep fear from taking over. Through all of this, the broader strategic picture mattered. The defense of Kyiv, preventing a rapid collapse. The stubborn resistance in the east, buying time and reshaping international support. But for the men inside those buildings and trenches, the war was measured in meters gained or lost, in friends saved or buried. The hidden stories of these dangerous assignments are not about invincibility. They are about ordinary people placed in extraordinary circumstances, facing horror head-on and choosing to move forward anyway. When you watch footage of Ukrainian Special Forces storming positions in close-quarters combat, remember that behind each burst of gunfire is a heartbeat. Behind each cleared room is a story that could have ended differently. What would you have done in that frozen hallway on February 24, 2022? With smoke in your lungs and the future of your city hanging in the balance? And how do you think such moments change a person forever? Share your thoughts below. Tell us what part of these close-quarters battles shocked you the most. And pass this story along to someone who needs to understand what courage really looks like when the door blows open and the darkness rushes in.